Dead Silence is a 2007 supernatural horror film directed by James Wan and written by Lee Winnell, whom you may recall are the creators of Saw. It stars Ryan Quanten, Amber Valletta, Bob Gunton, and of course... And while this is a request that I received, I had actually seen the film before, and I remembered it as being not too bad. Then again, I did watch He-Man as a kid and never picked up on all the homoeroticism that wouldn't have gone unnoticed today. His name was Fisto. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and start this review before I start ranting about other shit from my childhood, like how all the bad guys in G.I. Joe magically ejected from their fucking vehicles before they exploded. Or something. Our story begins on a dark and stormy night where we are introduced to Jamie and his wife, Lisa. After Jamie gives up on his plumbing exploits, the door buzzer ominously rings and we are introduced to another character. This is Billy, the creepy ventriloquist dummy that totally doesn't want to ride a bicycle of nightmares into your asshole. Seriously, why wouldn't you throw that thing out the goddamn window? I know I would, especially after it does this. After casually bringing up an old creepy poem for no reason, foreshadowing, Jamie heads out to pick up some dinner while Lisa stays home so she can make some tea, listen to crappy music, hint that she's pregnant, and joke around with the definitely not about to kill you plot device. All seems to be going well until everything goes dead silent. Come on! She's then attacked by angry linens and gets dragged into the camera. Hey honey, I got you a rose to make up for the fact that I just brought a 3-foot-tall lifetime supply of nightmare fuel into the house. Once Jamie arrives back home, he quickly notices that something's amiss. Strangely though, Lisa seems to be laughing and playing a joke on our hero. Or not? Enter Detective Wahlberg, as he wastes no time in not only showing us that he's a fucking slob, but gets right into treating Jamie as his wife's killer. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the exposition.
In the town where I'm from, a ventriloquist dummy is a bad omen. It's kind of a local legend, and some people believe that the dummy brings death to those around them.
Well, Detective Please Don't Go Girl lets Jamie off, and he wastes no time in contaminating the crime scene and stealing evidence before making a startling discovery which leads him to journey back home. And now it's time for an awkward surprise stepmom hug in 3, 2, 1.
Jamie! Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. But I'm so glad to have you home.
This is Emma, who at some point married his father after he had a stroke. After a quick back and forth with Dad of the Living Dead, we get the scary poem referenced again. That night, Jamie has a creepy nightmare about B. Arthur paying him a visit that was probably induced by the scary doll that he should have left in the fucking trunk. After a slow-motion funeral, our hero is startled by the mortician's sister who spouts more creepy poem stuff and tells him he must bury the doll.
Kill my wife? What are you talking about?
So he attempts to do just that. Aw, look, someone already made him a little grave. There's nothing at all strange about burying a bunch of fucking dummies in a cemetery. Do I look sarcastic? I want to look sarcastic. Alright, Detective Donnie's back. Man, we need more shifty detectives that shave everywhere but the fucking bathroom in movies. We really do. Once again, Jamie absconds with Billy, only this time it's to the funeral home to try and find out what all this Mary Shaw stuff is about. Ooh, grainy flashback time. Here we learn that back in the day, Mary Shaw was a performing ventriloquist that seemed to be somewhat well regarded until one night when she's heckled by the Campbell Soup Kid. Well, the story goes that the little bastard disappeared, and shortly after, Mary Shaw was murdered by persons unknown. In death, she requested to not only be buried with all of her dolls, but that she be made into one as well. Since her untimely demise, the town has suffered from a string of mysterious murders that bear a striking resemblance to how poor Lisa was killed. Armed with this new knowledge, Jamie heads to where Mary Shaw lived, the old theater, while Officer Hangin' Tough does some digging of his own. Back at the definitely not haunted theater, Jamie uncovers an old notebook containing sketches of Mary Shaw's dummies and some rather ominous news clippings that start to fill in the blanks. Well, seeing as how he helped move the plot forward earlier and nobody's died in a while, it's now time for the Mortician to meet a grisly fate. Confrontation time! Jamie barges in during dinner and learns that his family was responsible for Mary's death and that she's been coming back for revenge. Unfortunately, his interruption is interrupted by the arrival of Sergeant Step-by-Step, who's a little surly after digging up a metric fuck-ton of empty doll graves and decides it's time to haul Jamie's ass in. But our hero's not having any of that, so he knocks the other Wahlberg over and makes good his escape with the cop in sort of pursuit. Seriously, it's like the most half-hearted attempt to arrest somebody I've ever seen. I mean, look at this.
Jamie! You don't want to make me chase you. Jamie! I don't have a full tank of gas!
Finally, we get the team-up we've been waiting for as the two are lured deeper into the theater by the deceased Undertaker's voice and discover Mary Shaw's doll room/workshop, which just so happens to be fully stocked. They also discover the body of Jamie's long-lost mouthy relative who's been slightly modified. So just in case you're not creeped out by ventriloquist dummies or murderous spinster doll ghost ladies, have a clown.
Come closer.
Yeah, I'm with Donnie on this one. And it's time to go now, but unfortunately, our favorite new kid doesn't make it. Jamie, however, is fortunate enough to stifle his scream and land on a soft spot on the floor that gives way to a flooded basement. Having burned all the dolls in the theater, he now hauls ass back to town so he can destroy Billy and end it all. Oddly, the Mortician's sister claims Jamie's father took Billy, and Jamie makes one last trip home. Alright, mission accomplished. Or not. Well, Dead Silence isn't going to win any fucking awards, and I don't think anybody really expected it to. It gets a lot more shit than it deserves. Sure, the plot is completely fucking transparent, and we know exactly where everything is going. You can probably figure out the big twist before the end of the movie. Fuck, probably before the halfway point. But that doesn't mean that this movie sucks. It's actually a pretty creepy little entertaining ghost film that came out during a time when we hadn't seen anything like this in a while. And while that's not an excuse to mask the flaws that this film has, it's definitely not as bad as a lot of the other bullshit that comes out even today. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys one thing in particular. I am not a big fan of James Wan. It's not really his directing per se, but it's the direction that the films that he makes always end up taking. If you watch a lot of James Wan films, what you will see is a movie that starts off with a lot of promise, and then around the halfway third act point, starts falling apart and turning into something completely different. This is apparent with films like Insidious and The Conjuring, where most of the movie is pretty straightforward and good, and then it gets to the end and it's all about some kind of bullshit good versus evil thing that just seemed to come out of left field. Now, I'm not saying those movies suck or anything, but I just don't like that kind of storytelling. And Dead Silence doesn't have that at all. It's pretty straightforward the entire way through. It doesn't throw any surprises at you, but it doesn't have a bullshit Hollywood ending, which, if you haven't noticed by now, I fucking hate. Another thing to note about this film is that probably the best performance in it is the guy I made fun of the most in this review. And while I haven't seen him do a lot of other things, so I'm not really aware of his acting range, if you want to call it that, Donnie Wahlberg did a pretty decent job as this kind of scummy, sleazy cop that you just kind of can't help but smile about when he's on screen. He's a lovable jackass. And that really helps the film, seeing as how everybody else is about as deep as a fucking goldfish bowl. But hey, if you go into a movie like Dead Silence expecting top-notch fucking writing and character development, that's just not going to happen. The best you can hope for with films like this is that you have a little bit of fun watching it and maybe get a couple little moments where you're creeped out or you get maybe scared. And that's what these films are meant for. They're not meant to be held up there with huge fucking AAA productions or classic films. They're there to fill a void, and they're there to fit in a genre. A lot of films like this go straight to DVD. Most don't get theatrical releases anymore. Or if they do, it's a very limited run, so they don't get any kind of advertising or promotion put behind them at all. Now, I'm not saying that every single movie that comes out straight to DVD needs to be fucking seen. I would never say something like that. But what I will tell you is that not every movie that comes out and doesn't spend a lot of time in the theater and doesn't get mentioned in the fucking papers is shit. If you're looking for a horror movie that has the supernatural elements, and it's got some creepy imagery, or if you know somebody who doesn't like ventriloquist dummies, this is a good movie to watch. Although I must admit, this will always be my favorite killer doll. Did you leave the light in the bathroom on? Are you gonna go check? Of course not. Why would you? Get a fucking job. Oh, what the fuck? Dude, come on, man. Close the fucking door.